Hi, I'm Michelle Sterling for Friends of Science Society. Remember Queen Elizabeth, how wonderful she was whenever she met with the hordes of small little children who would be bringing her flowers. And she would lean forward to each one, and with that delighted smile, she would say to them, "Oh, how lovely," and engage in conversation with them, acting as if it's probably the first time in her life that she had ever been given such a beautiful bouquet of flowers. Well, I saw an article recently on the anniversary of her passing about the many engagements she had had. Something like 31% of the people in the UK say that they actually met her in her lifetime. That's remarkable, just thousands of engagements. And every time, especially with the children, giving them the most beautiful smile. Can you imagine talking with the Queen of England as a small child and being given such grace? So for me, it's very disconcerting that her son, King Charles III, has gone the opposite direction. In fact, he and Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, kicked off a climate doomsday clock collection all across England. They have 150 doomsday clocks that they've set that's doing a countdown on the climate crisis. That's so absurd. It's so damaging to young people to think that the end of the world is nigh because there's some massive clock somewhere that's ticking off the number of days and probably counting up the carbon footprint. And a child can't do anything about that. And yet we keep burdening our children with phrases like, "The future is in your hands," and then telling them there's a climate catastrophe. Well, rather than this silly old clock or anything like it, I think we should be taking the advice of a British climate scientist, Mike Hume, who's written a book called Climate Change Isn't Everything. And in it, he points out that, first of all, climate change has become like a master narrative. And you definitely see that in the press, where everything is ascribed to climate change, absolutely everything. And there's a really wonderful woman on Twitter, or X as it's now called, Dawn TJ90. She's got the funniest collection of graphics you'll ever see, showing, birds are fatter because of climate change, birds are skinnier because of climate change, all these contradictory messages, and it's like the media don't even notice it. Anyway, in this book, Mike Hume states that there's no climate emergency and there's no reason to have this kind of countdown mentality. And in fact, he talks about climatism, that's what he calls it, and why it's dangerous, because it has a narrowing effect on the political vision. And so we see that in Canada today with Minister Guilbeault, who's dead set on shutting down natural gas in Alberta. And he doesn't mind if all the Albertans freeze in the dark in winter. People will actually die from that. But no, Mr. Guilbeault is intent on saving the planet. But the planet doesn't need saving. Yes, we do have to take care of our environmental footprint. Yes, we should keep an eye on what's happening with our emissions. And yes, we should also reevaluate climate science as it's been presented to date, because most of the catastrophic messages that you've heard have come from an implausible climate scenario called RCP 8.5, Representative Concentration Pathway 8.5. Once you take that scenario out of the equation, there's no climate emergency. We do have time. So I think that Her Majesty, if she were alive today, would recognize that as a profoundly good message for our children, for the future of our world. There's no climate emergency. We do have time. And then people could take time and actually smell those beautiful flowers. For Friends of Science Society, I'm Michelle Sterling.